All right, students, welcome back to Math 3, Chapter 6, Multiplication Facts to 5. You should have been reviewing your skip counting 5s and 6 prior to this lesson. If you haven't done that, pause what you're doing and go back and practice those skip counting. Okay, again, those are your 5s and 6. All right, today we're going to be talking about lesson 52, which is on page 101 and 104 of your textbook. And you're going to want to look at those pages while we're working and get out your pencil and paper. And right now we need to get on our thinking cap. So we're going to be talking about the zero and identity properties. And what the zero property of multiplication is that when zero is a factor, the product is always zero. So that's a really important takeaway here, is that any number multiplied by zero, the answer is always zero. And then the identity property of multiplication is when one is a factor, the product is the same as the other factor. So any number times one is simply one set of that number. So it is that number itself. So first, let's get our thinking cap on, and we're going to work through some problems. So let's get our multiplication. We have 6 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30. Next, we have 7 times 5. 7 times 5 is 35. 8 times 5. 8 times 5 is 40. Great job. Keep going. 9 times 5. And again, if we're going too fast, pause it. Write down these problems and make sure you know them. 9 times 5 is 45. And then 10 times 5 is 50. Okay, if you don't know any of these, let's make some flashcards. Flashcards are really helpful for us as we're learning our multiplication facts. Because remember, 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 9, 45, and 5 times 10 is 50. Good job. All right, we've got some subtraction review here, and we have 4-digit subtraction here. And so what we're going to be doing is we have to remember we have to start by borrowing. We have all these zeros over here. We need to get rid of our zeros and borrow from our next place value over. So the first thing we're going to do is convert this 0 to a 10, this 0 to a 9, and this 3 is going to be a 2. Remember, we have to take 100's place away because we've changed the 10's place to 9 tens, and the 1's place to 10. All right, so now we can subtract. So 10 minus 5 is 5, 9 minus 4 is 5, 2 minus 1 is 1, and 2 minus 1 is 1. That gives you your answer of 1,155. All right, look over here. 6,500 minus 2,234. I want you to try this problem on your own. Remember, when you get your answer, take your answer, add it to your bottom number, and you should get your top number. If you don't, you did something wrong somewhere. So try this one out on your own. 6,500 minus 2,234. Pause right now, work it out, and you come back. We're going to go over the steps and make sure you did it right. Okay, welcome back. We're going over the steps right now of how to borrow and subtract. We're going to start with the right here, and we're going to cross off this 0 because you cannot take 4 from 0. We're going to cross it off and make it a 10. Then, since we borrowed this, we're going to make this a 10, but we borrowed, since you can't take 3 away from 0, we have to make it a 10. But since we added, we lent 1 over here to our 1's place, we have to make it a 9. So 9 minus 3. And then we have to take our 5 and make it a 4. So let's do our math across there. And then 6 minus 2 is 4. So your answer should have been 4,266. Again, if you did not get this answer, check, pause this, rewind it, go back over the steps we did and see where you messed up, because you need to remember to line up your digits, and you need to make sure that you're borrowing accurately. So those are some big mistakes that kids make. All right, here's another one to try on your own. 4,800 minus 1,717. Again, pause it and then resume once you have the answer, and we'll see if our answers line up. Okay, go ahead. Okay, and so welcome back. We're going to unpause and say we're going to start here. We're borrowing 10. We're making our 0 a 10 and making that 10 minus 7 is 3. Our next zero, we're going to make it a 9. 9 minus 1 is 8. And then 7 minus 7 is 0. 4 minus 1 is 3. So you should have gotten 3,083. And here's another one to try on your own. 9,200 minus 129. Now these zeros are pesky, which is why we have to keep practicing them. So if you've been messing up with your place values and your borrowing, keep trying because this is an important skill. Okay, go back, try it again, and try it again until you honestly get it right. All right, let's go here. We're going to pause it and see what you end up with. Okay, as you can see, I'm starting to do my borrowing. 10 minus 9 is 1. 9 minus 2 is 7. 1 minus 1 is 0. And I can bring my 9 down. My answer, as well as yours, should be 9,071. All right, let's look at some factors. We have just some multiplication facts here to look at. 1 times 3, 1 times 4, 6 times 1. So again, what they're showing you here is the identity problem of multiplication. Any factor times the factor 1 equals, the product is always equal to the factor that it multiplies by 1. So 1 times 3, this factor is going to be 3, because this is simply saying we have one set of 3. We have one set of 4. We have 6 sets of 1, okay? Any number times 1 is going to be the number itself. All right, 9 times 1 is 9. 1 times 5 is 5. All right, that is the identity property of multiplication. Very important to remember. Any number times 1, the number keeps its identity. So remember that identity means you keep your identity. Okay, there's just one of them. Next, okay, we're going to do some practice. 1 times 7, if we're doing our identity property, 7 is going to keep its identity. All right, 2 times 1, again, 2 times 1, doing our identity property, 2 is going to keep its identity. Any digit, any factor times 1 will always be that factor. 8 times 1 is 8. And 1 times 1. So even when 1 is the factor you're multiplying against 1, it is still always 1. All right, any questions? Go back and look at that again. Again, you're talking about the identity factor. Every digit keeps its own identity. All right, 5 times 1. 5, that's right. Okay, 1 times 3, what do you think it's going to be? 3. 2 times 1. 2, right? 6 times 1. 6, are you getting it? Hopefully so. All right, 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 9 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. And 1 times 10 is 10. Okay, so going back and looking over this, you can see all these patterns. Our factors have all kept their identity because they're multiplying by 1, right? So any digit times 1, any factor times 1, the product will always be that factor. All right. Next, we're going to talk about the zero property of multiplication. That is when 0 is a factor, the product is always 0. So here, we have 3 times 0. Well, that's the same thing as saying I have $3 0 times. So really, I have $0. Okay, here it is again. 4 times 0. Still 0 times. I have $0. 9 times 0. Still have $0. Do you see how each one of these, at every single time you multiply factor times 0, you're always going to get a 0. This is called the zero property of multiplication. All right. Next, it says, well, it just showed you that that is the zero property of multiplication. All right, we're going to practice it again. 0 times 5, what do you think it's going to be? If you said 0, you are correct. Remember, 0 times any number is always 0. So 8 times 0 is 0. Even if we have 1,000 times 0, it's still 0. 6 times 0 is 0. 0 times 1, still 0, because this one, both factors take place. The 1 factor, right? The identity factor of 1, 0 keeps its identity. And the 0 factor, any number times 0 is still 0. They both play there. All right, this should be fast. 10 times 0, 0. 0 times 4, 0. 9 times 0, you guessed it, 0. 0 times 7, also 0. 2 times 0, 0. 0 times 10, 0. All right. Here is some practice for you with these blocks. 5 times 1. You'll lay them up just like we did in the review. 5 down, 1 at the top. It's still 5. All right. 1 times 8. Put your 8 on the left, 1 on the top. Again, we're having a single row of 8. It's just 8. All right. Going to go through these a little bit quickly just to show you that you're still equaling the number. We don't want to run out of time. 7 times 0. Uh-oh. I'm going to have 7 and 0. I'm going to have nothing. Nothing there. It's going to be absolutely no blocks. All right. Same if I do 0 times 7. No blocks there. All right. Here we have a word problem. A missionary gave 1 Bible to each of the 4 families in the new church. How many Bibles did the missionary give out? Okay, there's 4 families. They each get 1 Bible. How many Bibles is that? 4. Good job. All right. There were 5 children in Sunday school class. Each child gave enough money to purchase 4 Bibles to give to the missionary. How many Bibles were purchased to give to the missionary? So we have 5 children and they each gave 4 Bibles. That's 20 Bibles. Good job. Okay, so we are doing page 101 and, 103 and 104 in our book. Every problem 1 through 16 on page 102 and every problem 1 through 19 on page 104. Number 16 through 19, that is those pesky zeros that we've been practicing with subtraction. Review is extremely important. Make sure you do all of the problems. Check yourself again and again. Make sure you're checking your zero property and your identity property and that you're using them correctly. Make sure you're lining up your digits. Make sure your pictures are all, like if you're 9, whatever factors on the left, when you're using your 100 graph, those digits should be on the left. Those blocks should be on the left vertically. Okay, whatever's on top should be horizontal across the top. Draw your pictures and remember, no silly mistakes. If you have any questions, make sure you ask. All right, good luck, guys.